This show is brought to you by Nice Mug. Nice Mug is the only mug made entirely out of ice. For more information, go to nicemug.com and enter the coupon code SAUNA for 10% off your entire purchase. Well, hey everybody, welcome to this episode of Sauna Talk, and today on the bench we are joined with John Breitinger. And John is a Minneapolis resident, and he is quite an acclaimed commercial real estate developer, has been in that field for a while and is doing some major consulting work in that field with a large bank, and has a cabin about 2 hours north and east of Minneapolis Saint Paul, Minnesota. And at this cabin, it's a very old school cabin with a few outbuildings, as you'll hear described in this episode, one of which is a garage built in the probably 1930s. And he got to scratching his head and thinking, well, this would be an ideal place for an authentic sauna. So I encourage you guys to check it out. It is he's a great photographer as well, and he captured the building of the sauna. And in addition to that, you'll see, a real meticulous approach to his sauna building effort. Being, a commercial real estate developer, he's well familiar with all of the aspects to a project, and he leaned into his build in much the same, with the same rigor and enthusiasm. With this sauna project. But there's two things about John that I wanted to make note about. Number one is he fell into the authentic sauna experience, much like many of us, with travel overseas in Europe, Northern Europe specifically, and that stayed in his bones, like it does with a lot of us, including myself. And he brought that feeling back, with him to America, and he was able to realize the build of his own sauna so that he can experience that same feeling again. And so there you go. So that's one important element to this. And, the other is, as you'll hear, John's deep, soulful appreciation towards the healing nature of sauna within oneself, and also as a community gathering opportunity based on his experience with the Native American Sweat Lodge, the adaptation of that practice as a healing and bonding potential element for people. I think that comes through well in this interview. So I didn't want to go on and on, but I wanted to introduce you to John through my world. Again, sauna keeps giving and giving, and the authentic sauna draws just so many great people into my life. I'm very grateful for that, and John is one of those examples. So without further ado, please welcome John to Sauna Talk. Well, here we are on the sauna bench, and it's a really cold day. This has been a hell of a winter here in Minnesota. We had great ice. Do you skate, John?
I do.
Yeah. Did you skate on any of the lakes?
I did. Yeah. It was extraordinary this year.
Where did you skate? Which lakes?
Lake of the Isles and our lake up in northern Wisconsin.
You had clear ice up there.
We did.
Yeah, and I'm going to introduce to you John, and you guys know of John from the sauna that he built, and it just was a remarkable project. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself, John? Like your background, where'd you grow up, and...
Yeah, I grew up in north central Ohio, went to Ohio State University, and moved to Minnesota the day that I graduated in 1981, and fell in love with this place. Other than the year and a half that I spent primarily in Europe, I've lived here all of my adult life.
Yeah, and what drew you to the Twin Cities of Minneapolis?
My family had a business in Ohio that I intended to go back and become a part of, but I knew I needed to go prove myself first. And the community that I grew up in, Mansfield, Ohio, is one of those towns that's kind of a subsidiary of Detroit that really has been in a kind of an economic downward trend since the oil embargo in 1972, and so combination of things. My grandfather, who led the business, died earlier than I expected, and the region, the kind of the sub-region, there's a lot of great stuff in Ohio, but the area that I grew up in has really not produced a lot of economic opportunity. And of course, once I came here, I really didn't want to live anywhere else. I just fell in love with this city and what lies beyond. I'm a bush pilot, and I have a cabin up in northern Wisconsin, and I live in downtown Minneapolis in a condominium, and I spend a lot of my weekends and time in the wilderness, both up in the Boundary Waters and at my cabin, and I've just fallen in love with this region.
Man, I knew you and I had stuff in common, but I never knew we had this in common. I grew up in Buffalo, New York. The same kind of economic troubles.
Yeah.
I came to this town and just fell in love with the city itself. And one of the great things about this city is the nature that surrounds it, as you well described. And I moved in 1988, and in 1989 I bought my own island on Lake Vermilion up there, because that was a commitment I made to myself. I squirreled away some cash, and it was kind of a neat thing to be a taxpayer in 218, up there, and not own in Minneapolis at the time. And
I love it. Are you able to use it in the winter?
Theoretically, yes, but practically, no, because it's such a wimpy excuse. I mean, I can get up there and ski from my car across the lake about close to a mile, and the cabin warms up nicely. It takes some time, but there really isn't much excuse. I mean, it's a practical thing, that it's just been such a busy time, and what a lame excuse, isn't it, John? Yeah, but
we love and that was, my heart is really in Ely and northern Minnesota, that Canadian Shield, but we went through this same kind of soul searching, and really decided that being 2 hours away, being able to drive in, was really what was going to make it work while my daughter was growing up and I was working. And I bought an old place that was built around 1900 and extensively remodeled in 1927, and I've had a lot of fun kind of fixing it up.
And you bought your cabin in western Wisconsin what year then?
So I bought it the year my daughter was born, so she's 19, so I've had it almost 20 years.
About 20 years.
And I had a place before it, just a few hundred yards away, that was barely a step up from a tar paper shack.
Yeah, right on. But the proximity, this is another interesting thing of your heart is where my heart is, up toward Ely, but the practicality is a different story. My wife is actually sniffing around with the idea of us getting a little closer to town. So isn't it funny how that works?
Well, and the beauty of it is that it has allowed it to really be a part of my life, and it's not uncommon. I like to ski the Berkey, and in the years when I'm able to do that, I'm training with people. We'll take off at noon, go up and ski a couple of hours. We'll stop and light the sauna on the way.
Yeah.
Come back and relax, spend the night, and get up and repeat the cycle in the morning, and be home for whatever is going on Saturday night. And you can't really do that going to the Boundary Waters.
2 hours is about the reach, isn't it?
Yeah.
Neat. So you let's fast forward a little bit. You have your cabin, and if you could tell the listeners a little bit about the layout of your property. You mentioned it's old. It's got a lot of old character, built in the early 1900s.
Yeah.
You say? And tell us about the property itself and the buildings.
So when I bought my first place, we had my then wife and I had been looking for quite a while, and we wanted a cabin, and that means a lot of different things to a lot of different people today. Many of the places we looked at were very extravagant lake homes, and we wanted something that was comfortable, that we could use all year round, but where we'd feel comfortable coming in hunting boots, and that would be the center of a different kind of life than we have here in the city. And when I found the first place, we walked in, and after looking at 50 places, said we'll take it, and didn't think about it for 10 minutes.
Yeah, it just spoke to you.
And the second place was like that. It was a storied old place, had been in the same family since 1927, and as many families do, they had gotten to the point where the remaining heirs were scattered around the country, and if it's too hard to get to Ely, it was an order of magnitude harder for them to come from other states, and they had a lot of interest in the place, mostly from people. When I bought it, I had 22 acres with 850 feet of frontage, and most of the folks who were interested were developers that were going to subdivide it and put in, anywhere from 6 to 7
Sure.
cabins. And I told them that, we loved it for what it was, and but we couldn't afford it. My daughter was about to be born. We were remodeling an old house here in Minneapolis. We were seriously over our heads, and it's one of those things where your heart speaks to you, and the women who were selling the place that had been their mother's home all her life just wanted us to have it, and so we made a deal, and we made it all work out. I have a wonderful neighbor that I sold one parcel to, and so we still have about 16 acres, and we're able to comfortably practice Scandinavian sauna up there, where we can walk around outside naked and not bother a soul.
Right. Sounds wonderful. There's a house, the old homestead.
Right.
What other buildings on the property?
So it came with, in 1927, they built a series of outbuildings. There was a woodshed that was a 10 by 20 structure, a 3-car garage that's about 20 by 30, and an old ice house that's probably 20 by 20. And those structures are all vertical log structures, which wasn't a building technique I was super familiar with, but it was apparently in that period of time really popular up there. They would mill a log flat on one side, then index the other side, and these would be 7 to maybe 9-inch logs, kind of an average of about 8. And they put them together in a slab and kind of wrap at the top and the bottom, so that there'd be both a sill and a top plate, and then they built them on a slab and a concrete foundation. So they're great structures.
Great structures, and this wood was obviously harvested right on site.
Yeah.
What tree species, to put you on the spot, would you guess?
So we've got a lot of white pine, red pine, and jack pine, and I should know that, and I don't.
No, it's okay. I mean, I as I think about it, they probably are a various species of pine. White.
Oh yeah, they're for
red.
sure a soft pine.
Yeah, and what would be the average diameter, like, maybe?
It's the average thickness of the wall is a little more than 6 inches.
Yeah. So a common building technique at the time, what they were certainly doing is milling the trees on site, and if they were taking down larger trees, they were probably pulling sections of comparable diameter to make that wall.
Yeah, they had I've got old photographs. They had this stuff, the way you'd cut lumber and you'd sticker it to dry. They had piles of this stuff that they built these from. I've got an old outhouse that's still there. Probably need to salvage that. And then they built a dry boathouse down on the shore, a 10 by 20. We kind of use it as our front porch at the water, because I'm about 25-30 feet above the lake where the cabin is, and then a little pump house, and Then there was one final structure. They built a 20 by 40 structure that they had 3 box stalls and a tack room in because their grandchildren were into horses, and it was designed to be converted later into a guest house. When I bought it, those buildings were all still there. Fundamentally sound, but needing some TLC.
So let me try to add them up. Add them up for me in simple form. I know the 10 by 20 garage.
So I've got the cabin. There's the old wood shed, the 20 by 30 garage, the ice house, the stable building, the little boathouse, and then there was also a pump house right next to the boathouse. And if I didn't say it, there's the outhouse and the cabin.
So quite a number of structures. And let's fast forward a little bit towards sauna. The idea came about in your head. You had this idea for a few years, right? Sauna at your property.
Well, when I so my first wife was German, and when I started traveling and working a little bit in Europe, I spent a winter in Stockholm and was able to get to know the Swedish sauna culture. The truth is, where I really learned sauna culture was in Germany, and I just fell in love with it. I just fell in love with the long, leisurely, sensual afternoons of just sitting and relaxing and talking, and there, everybody's naked, which is took a few minutes to get used to, but it leads to a quality of openness and conversation that's hard to find. And boy, I'll tell you, it just seeped into me, and I've loved it ever since.
And at what stage did you? How long ago did you decide? Hey, I want this at my cabin.
Well, I was the bulk of the time that I was really spending in Europe was 1988 and 89, and it was right before the wall fell. I came home in September of '89, and that it was so deep in me that I just couldn't wait to build my own sauna at that time. And I can't honestly tell you, Glenn, why I didn't. Life intervened. My marriage fell apart, although I'm still dear friends with my first wife. Just visited her in December, and but for whatever reason, it has been on my bucket list, and when I bought this place, it was at the very top of the list. And I'll tell you what happened is everybody that I consulted with on this said, you got to do this down by the lake. And, I'm separated by grade, somewhere between 25 and 35 feet, depending on where you start. Wanted to do a wood burner. Didn't want to schlep wood up and down the hill. And I couldn't really create the kind of resting room, changing room there that I wanted to. It would have been a really nice sauna, but I just could never pull the trigger because I just could see it being a lot of work and not being really quite the right thing.
Yeah. When you say not quite the right thing, I think I follow you. It's so darn wonderful to walk 3-4 steps out of the hot room door, out to a dock and jump right in. But if this destination is tough to get to, tough to transport wood, you're down there and it's like, oh, you want to go back up and make yourself a cocktail or whatever. It's a different time zone to get up the hill, right?
Well, and Glenn, sauna culture. When I'll go out and start the fire, and I built a bigger sauna to accommodate a larger group of people. But I'll typically go out and light the fire on an afternoon when I'm working outside splitting wood or working in the yard doing something, and we'll have a light lunch, and our sauna will usually start sort of late afternoon, early evening, and we'll do 3 or 4 average probably 15-minute rounds in the hot room, but the real experience happens in that resting room. You come out, you're sweating the most you're ever going to be sweating, and that next 10 minutes is really important to that experience, and then the cool down and just the conversation continues, and so it was really important to me to have a beautiful and comfortable place. And of course, having traveled around Scandinavia, I knew of these buildings as not really extravagant places, but kind of the center of family life, and children are born there and guests stay there, and in the summer there'd be card games out there, and dinners, and so when I got to the point where my daughter was growing up and about to leave, and I was single again, and wanting to really use my place as a camp, a place to gather people. I really reimagined the sauna, and I opened my eyes, and the perfect building was right there.
Mm. And that was which one?
That was what was my woodshed. It was this 10 by 20 structure. You okay with a little break?
Sure. One more shot of water, or are you walking?
I didn't bring water with me.
To drink? I got some drinking water for you.
Oh, good.
Yeah. But the 10 by 20 spoke to you.
It did, yeah.
I'm going to step out. Yeah, we're still going.
Okay.
I like the sound of the water on the rock. Sometimes when I re-listen to these, people will say, "Oh, are you really recording in the hot room?" And I go, I think that's part of the continuity of sauna talk.
Yeah, we are, and it's we're almost at the perfect end of a first round.
Yeah, we are, and I like how you didn't dash for the door. It shows me you're not a sauna novice. Like,
no.
Does this heat feel familiar to you?
Oh yeah, that steam is just like coming home.
Yeah,
and the sound of the stove expanding, and the sound of the steam, the smell of the sheet metal, and that little hint of wood smoke are one of those deep, visceral memories, and also the sound of the air moving through the fire. It's a very soulful thing for me.
And for me too, John. If you were to close your eyes and take in this feeling, and I'm doing that right now, does this feel right now any different than your cabin sauna?
No, it's the same deal. It's the wood heat, and
it's a universal, isn't it?
Yeah, it really is. And frankly, it takes me back nearly 40 years to Scandinavia.
And for me too.
Yeah.
And for me too, brother. It's beautiful that we're able to replicate it. Reproduce it.
Well, and part of what really triggered this for me is I'm part of a men's group, and we do weekends together around the country, and one aspect of that is a cleansing and purification ritual, and we're careful about the language we use, because a lot of what we've done, is really appropriated from the Plains Indians. But when I realized the magic of that time together with a group of people,
yes,
that really brought a new urgency to building out my sauna.
So do you think the Native Americans would get pissed if you said sweat lodge with a different accent?
I what I've discovered is that I have a deep empathy for those men, and there are a lot of different sensitivities. I think that what we all agree to is what we hold in common, and I try to be very careful with my language, and I don't know, Glenn, but that makes me want to be super respectful. So the interesting thing about cultural appropriation is that this whole sauna thing came from another culture, and one of the things I love about it is that you find it in Nordic places. The Inuit used sweat lodges. The Plains Indians, certainly the Scandinavians and the Northern Europeans, all the way across, and thankfully the Finns don't begrudge us anything, because what I really have tried to replicate is that that authentic feeling. Really rustic, rough but clean place that's comfortable.
Agreed. And it's simple. Yeah, you nailed it with those three, those three adjectives there. Let me try to reframe them: rustic, clean, simple,
And comfortable.
comfortable.
It's
Yeah,
it's a place that I think everybody just walks in and exhales and
Yeah.
feels good.
Yeah.
And one of the things I've learned from the Native American men and in their purification and cleansing ceremonies, it's a little different. We build the structure out of willows. We cut the willows by the river and then cover it in blankets and branches.
And this is where
The ones that I've participated in have been in Sioux City and then in down on the prairie in southwestern Minnesota, just out in the middle of true prairie.
Yeah.
And before we build the structure, I think of it as a lodge, and these are probably 15, 20 feet across, and we'll have 20, 25 men in there. We'll dig a pit, and they're heated differently than our saunas, but ultimately it's the same thing. You get a big mass and get it real hot. So
When you say heated differently, it's the fire on the outside, heating hot rocks brought inside.
right, so we all bring, think of grapefruit to bowling ball size, mostly granite rocks, and build a massive fire on top of them so that they're red hot, they're glowing, and the men all file in, and the person who's tending uses a pitchfork to hand in the grandfathers the hot rocks. And so we start with a few, and they'll burn some sage and sweetgrass and a little bit of tobacco, and there'll be drumming and chanting while we're in there. And if you kind of step back from it and superimpose the Christian Northern European, the Finns would say, you behave in the sauna the way you do in church. It's a very similar, it's a very soulful time.
It is.
And
if I could interject, the process through a Native American sweat lodge is one in which you're in the room the whole time.
Yeah, so they bring in water, and after smudging with the aromatic herbs and tobacco, there's some drumming, and they'll add water to the hot stones, and of course the humidity comes up. And it rounds about like ours, and then they open the lodge, and if there are any men that need to leave, they're able to do that. And after a brief rest, a few more of the grandfathers come in, and we ended up completing typically 4 rounds, and it would get progressively hotter.
Yeah.
It's just awesome. It's more alike than different.
Agreed. And from start to finish, how long would the process be, these 4 rounds?
As long as it takes.
Yeah. So
I wish I knew, Glenn. I
you
would
lose track of time.
I totally do. I would have to guess that it's probably not real different, maybe a little shorter than what we do. We find that our evenings in the sauna end up stretching out to 2.5, 3 hours, and it's probably more like 2 hours.
Yeah. But this is a difference in that these all of these 2 hours are spent in the hot room.
Yeah, and the big difference for me is I'm sitting, with my legs folded.
Yeah.
At my age, I'm not as limber as I used to be.
I know.
It's kind of nice to get up and walk around the way we are.
True.
But it's interesting. It takes me back to my time in Germany with the Saunameister and the Aufgas. And they I don't know if you've experienced that, but they do a very similar thing, and they just have more rules.
Yeah. And the clock is running. It's to the minute, isn't it?
Oh my God!
Isn't it interesting? I mean, you couldn't come up with more of a cliche about it. How the Germans have adopted the Finnish sauna ritual to their own and created structure to it.
Yeah, for sure.
And I know the Finns. I know a lot of Finns and stuff, and there's all these different orthodox views of what is sauna and what isn't sauna. Yeah. But I like it all. I know you do too, John. I like it all. I've done the Temescal experience. I've had a Native American sweat lodge experience. I am drawn to the free form of the Finnish style. I like it. Hey, what we're doing now, how could it get any better?
Yeah. Well, this sort of the community that grows out of time together, standing around half dressed or naked, either way.
And in nature too, as we cool down in our rounds. And it's interesting how, I could get on a whole soapbox about sauna, and you and I will, and we are, but there is this thing where when you talk to people about sauna, they think hot room. They think sauna is a hot room.
Yeah.
And it couldn't be any more from the truth. It's a component of the experience.
Yeah.
And what you've created at your cabin is, a sauna experience through multiple zones. And you so aptly point out the importance of your cool down space.
Yeah, it wouldn't be what it is without that. We designed it. So I built, I think I showed it to you, a sauna bench for the resting area that actually folds down into a full-size bed that we can drop a futon or an air mattress.
And that was a custom piece of furniture.
Yeah, we built it right there.
Yeah.
I loved working on this project, and I realized that it was going to be 2 years if I did it all by myself. And so I was really fortunate. Jeff Kasten, whose father-in-law was the guy who built the structure in 1927, has helped me around my place for the whole 20 years I've owned it.
Yeah.
And when I called him and described it to him, I think he was scratching his head thinking, oh my God, there's another 6-1 tour with a nutty idea. But, he fell in love with it, and I'll be surprised if it doesn't become a meaningful part of his business, because, once I think people have this experience, it's, what's the Scandinavian word that's going around?
It's a Danish word for
hoogie.
Hoogie, H-E-G-G.
H-Y.
Yeah.
Yeah. Cozy, and we live in a four-season culture. We all love nature. We love being outside, and this is such a sensual experience, and it's a great shared experience too.
Yeah, agreed with that. So it wasn't hard for you to isolate what you call the garage / woodshed as the spot for the sauna building.
No, the minute I looked at it and thought about it, I walked in the house and I Googled sauna in the Midwest, and I found I called you that day. It took you 8 hours to get back to me. Bought your book, and all I needed was a collaborator, and I ended up with a few. I relied on you for technical and cultural experience, and my friend Sherry and my craftsman Jeff, and we just kept working it, and it turned out in some ways pretty different than we expected. I had expected to build a whole insulated cedar envelope inside, and when we put up that hot room wall and looked at it, I thought, oh my God, these logs are gorgeous.
Yeah. And you integrated them so well, and I know that was a point where we were talking about the insulative value of the existing wall as its own versus altering that wall and creating more insulation there. But you ended up keeping the original wall.
Yeah, the entire perimeter is the original walls. We ended up, there was one window that kind of drove where we put the other windows and where we put the wall. I'm not sure if I would really change much of anything. I think the proportions worked out really well. I ended up going with the medium-sized Kuma stove. And when I don't know how is your place pretty cold soaked when you started up?
Yeah, it was 20 degrees here 2 hours ago. Yeah.
So when I've been using mine this winter, it's been anywhere from 20 to 20 below.
Yes.
And
It's a cold start. I'm going to get you some more water, and then we'll go in the hot room.
Sounds great.
Yeah, keep talking, though.
All right.
Yeah, keep talking. So it's a cold start, and it takes you a while.
Yeah, it takes anywhere from 2 hours to 3 hours, depending on how aggressively I stay on it,
Yeah.
and what we're starting from. But what I do is most of my guests like a little warmer resting place.
Yes.
And I like to encourage the hangout.
Yes.
So for the first hour and a half to 2 hours, I leave the door open, and I put a ceiling fan in the hot room so that it moves the air around pretty well.
Nice.
And usually after about 2 hours, I'll come out and we'll be at 150, 160 in the hot room, and coming up to 70 in the relaxing space. And we close the hot room door. We end up getting to 180 pretty fast.
Yeah.
That last 20 minutes or so gets us really all the way to where we want to go.
I got a buddy, Tom Orlando's been on this podcast, and I built his sauna on the shores of Lake Superior. He's a big fan of riding up the first round. He likes getting in there when it's like 120, 130, no more at round one, and have a real long build up, so that by the time round one is completed, it's up to 160, 170. And I hated that at first. I like getting in and having a real hot, and just settling in.
I like the hot start too.
Yeah.
And you know what? We vary it a lot depending on how we're feeling, if we've been out skiing all day and we've been sweating and,
Sure.
and aren't real hydrated, we're a little more careful, because not much fun to get oh man, steam feels good.
That's nice.
So one thing I notice that's really nice about this smaller hot room is it contains the steam. It takes a lot more steam in mine to really
It
fill it
hits
up
you
like
right
this.
away.
Yeah.
You have to watch that. I had a buddy come in here. He was sitting where you are, is more the control center seat over there, closer to the stove. And, he's used to a larger hot room, much like yours. And he threw a ton of water on it, and it just almost drove me out of here. And it drove him out. He had to take off. He was like, wow. But yeah, you get a quicker, more intense blast.
Yeah, well, there's definitely a learning curve, but back to your question, the minute I looked at that, it was, I called you and said, hey, do you think we can get a Kuma this fall? Because I'm ready to go. I'd really like to get started. And thankfully, I don't know what my experience would have been on my own, but with your call, Dale took my call, and he was able to take care of me as soon as I was able to get up there. And,
on that note, the loyalty door swings in both directions. I have been a huge promoter of the Kuma stove for close to 30 years. Daryl is a remarkable man. I mean, he's brilliant. His brilliance in the design of this stove. This heat brought me back to what I experienced in Europe. And
it's magic. It's beautifully made. It works perfectly, and that was one of the most fun field trips I've ever taken. It was between the conversations with Daryl and Dale, who runs the place for him. Learned a lot, and they had it all ready to go, loaded it in my trailer, and was back in Minong that evening. I stopped and had dinner at the Duluth Grill on the way home.
I've been there many times. That's part of my stopping.
It's one of my favorite places.
Me too.
And we burned it that night.
Did you burn it outside?
Yeah.
Bring it. Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's funny. I had that. Not to interrupt you, but I've had that conversation recently where breaking in the stove. Smart people do what you did. Impatient people usually, there's such a rush to get to the finish line that you install the stove and then you burn it off, and but you burnt it outside, and then
the one mistake I made was I didn't put a stovepipe on it, and so it got all sooty in the glass, which was not hard to clean up. But if I had it to do over, I would tell somebody to just set the stovepipe on it so that it draws regularly.
Interesting, good.
And that wouldn't happen. But
did you put a damper in your stove?
I did.
Yeah, and did we talk about that? You're able to contain some heat through that damper?
I think so. I noticed you don't have one, and my procedure is I run the thing wide open for the first 15 or 20 minutes, and at that point it's roaring. Doesn't take long. I mean, it's actually roaring pretty good in about 5 minutes, and at that point then I'll load it up and pretty well shut it down. And
you bring it to just above the click at that point?
I bring it to just above the click on the intake manifold, and then I'll also close down the damper on the exhaust. And I'm just listening here. You can hear the sound of the air moving through it. And when I close that damper, that on the flue, that has even more impact in terms of slowing it down, and it's counterintuitive. You and I've talked about that many times, and I'm still gaining confidence with that, but I'm pretty convinced that when we're running them harder, and so I think my recommendation would be to put a damper on the exhaust flue, because I think we're sending a lot of heat up the flue.
I'm in agreement with that. I don't know. I've probably built 10 saunas, each one of which has Kuma in it, and I think I've only done the damper once or twice, and I've never really put any emphasis on it because the stove is built so tightly that the air can be controlled so well through the air intake.
Well, as soon as you come up and try mine out, I think that, and maybe you've already had this experience, I think it'll change your mind, because just based on the sound of it, you can tell that it's really slowing down the volume. And as you know, once these things are burning and are tuned, there's nothing but vapor coming out the top.
I know. I think that's a perfect word for it, tuned. I really enjoy tuning, and I am very... you can see, you obviously watch the flame. You're looking for that optimal tuning of the burn through your sight, but the sound comes at you too, like when you hear the clicking of the stove, and that's where the counterintuitiveness is affirmed. Because what I'll do is, much to your style, like I'll open the ash pan, get the thing roaring for maybe 5 to 10 minutes. Close the ash pan, but leave it open up all the way, and then
I couldn't help but wonder when I was reading Daryl's instructions if he was playing to our male egos, because it reminded me of when I got my chemistry set. Whatever you do, don't do this. Well, how bad can it be? They gave it to kids, and so he advises not to run it with the pan open.
He gets mad at me when I tell him I run it with the ash pan open. He's just about ready to cut me off,
But like you, I mean, it makes the startup so easy, and I'm careful not to leave it there for more than 15 minutes at the most, and often it's 5 or 10.
Yeah, just to get it going, because one of the problems is if that thing starts getting hungry for air, and it's not getting it, and the smoke overcomes, it'll put itself out. It's a rare case, but. Especially because you burn really dry wood. I mean, that's a cure for many ills, for all ills, really, once you get a fire going. But yeah, back to the senses. So the sound, the reason why I'm so in tune to the tune of a good fire is the clicking. And when I'll come out and it's open up all the way, ash pan closed, making in conformance to the Daryl Lampa standard of safety. But anyway, I'll tone it down, and you start hearing that metal expand like crazy when you start to contain the airflow in the heat chamber.
Right. And the pipe gets hotter, the whole thing gets hotter, and all you have to do is go out and look at the exhaust, and I have to tell you, I've spent enough time in the boundary waters and on the range between my bush flying and canoeing and dog sledding that I've heard every story there is to hear. And I, you know, one of our favorite things to do up there, my daughter and I go up canoeing every summer, and we go up dog sledding every winter.
Wow.
And we always plan our trip so that we're in town either on Wednesday night or Saturday night, so we can go to the public sauna.
Yeah, in Ely.
In Ely, yeah. And it's interesting. You hear so many stories, and you develop a pretty good filter. And so when I was sitting and talking with all the craftsmen at Lampa, was taking it all in with kind of a grain of salt. And, I have to tell you, I've been just amazed at the performance of that product. I mean, those guys weren't exaggerating one bit, and that's pretty rare.
Well, that's right, yeah, because there's a lot of potential, what is that, like fluttering of wings, like say how great this is and that is. But, it is an incredible story when you consider that, and I know the date exactly, February 4th, 1996. That is the record for the continental U.S. coldest day, minus 60 degrees Fahrenheit, and that's in Tower, Minnesota. And I know that because we bought our second cabin on Lake Vermilion in 95, 96, and the Bank of Tower gave these for getting a loan out of the bank, they gave you one of those thermometers.
Yeah.
And it had that on there, coldest day on record. So every time I'd look at what the temp is outside, I was reminded of that day. And, you take yourself back to that day, in many days like that in winter in Tower, Minnesota. And to know that, Daryl Lampa and his father were in their garage, like tinkering with the performance of their stove, and not just Daryl and his father, but Daryl and his father and his father.
Yeah.
You have 3 generations of sauna stove makers in the town of Tower that gets so friggin' cold. You figure I got to figure that's the perfect environment to design.
I'll tell you, the craftsmanship, the skill that those guys have in their building is just amazing. I was just thinking to myself, I was kind of giggling that if my friend Sherry was here, she'd be rolling her eyes at the way we're wandering around in this conversation.
Yeah.
But
you and I appreciate good craftsmanship, and I help hundreds of people build their own saunas, and I can tell, hey, everybody wants to save a dime doing this, that, and the other thing, and I'm one of those folks as well. But when it comes to the sauna stove,
that's the heart of it. I mean,
yeah. And we build our saunas once, right?
Yeah.
So
hopefully, unless we really screw it up.
Well, if we screw it up and burn it down, the stove is still standing, right? And
I built a couple airplanes more than once.
There you go.
But back to your earlier question, when I found the building, I called you. We got the stove. I brought the stove home. We burned it off, and Jeff came up with the was it Selkirk?
Yep, that's
the Selkirk stovepipe the next day, and we got it installed. And we put that stove in before we started anything else, and he re-roofed the building for me around it. But that was in October, and we had some cold weather in October. And we started you've seen my sketches. I took yours, and we went back and forth a few times.
Hey, and by the way, those listening, if you go on Sauna Times and search for John's Sauna, what did I call the name of our guest post? Do you remember something?
I think something about northern Wisconsin.
Yeah, if you search on the right-hand side at Sauna Times, northern Wisconsin, John's sauna is really well illustrated. By the way, I'm sitting with a great photographer, and you'll see it. You'll see the great photography work that John did showing his sauna. But there's a great photo of what you're describing. In there.
Yeah. So we sketched it out, and we nailed that up on the wall. And I was there every weekend, and Jeff was working while I wasn't there. And everybody who touched it.
And sorry to interrupt, but that sketch was the blueprint for the build.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
We lit that stove and pretty much kept it going for about 6 weeks while we were in and out of there working, and I'll tell you, it was just a delight every week when it came up, and it was a little further along.
Yeah.
and you know, the first time I could use it was I think 10 days after we put it in. Jeff he got the cedar on one side of the wall and hung blankets for me. And I went in and I got that baby up to 170 degrees.
Yeah.
And,
so the blankets acted as the common wall between the hot room and what would be the changing room?
just like they do in our lodges out in the prairie.
And you had plenty of heat.
The Kuma cures all ills.
Yeah, amen to that. I have a similar story I mentioned earlier about Tom. You know, the ride it up first round guy. He was just like yourself in terms of that level of excitement. You know, he has a 12 by 16. It was a 12 by 16 foot shed, literally on the shoreline of Lake Superior, about 5 miles south of Two Harbors. And he revealed to me he bought the place because of the shed. He had that same thought that you had about your 10 by 20 garage.
Right.
And so that was the first thing I did there. We built that sauna in phases. And phase one was I ordered all the material from Home Depot to build the hot room.
Okay.
The 7 by 7 hot room within the 12 by 16. And it was funny, the Home Depot truck shows up on old Highway 61. And we were all concerned about, we didn't want to draw any attention to the building inspector and the zoning and planning and whatever. Hey, we have a shed. It's been there for a long time. What we do inside our shed is our own business, you know. So there I was, like, throwing all the lumber down the hill as quickly as I could and get that Home Depot truck on its way. And then I was under the gun to get that hot room built. And Tom would call me and had the stove there, and he's like, "You got the stove in. You got the stove in." And I said, "Yeah, the stove is in." He goes, "I'm on my way." So he left the cities, and we inaugurated the first sauna. Much to your story, you know, same deal as a makeshift first sauna. But those are great saunas where you start to really feel the space and how it's going to be.
Well, and I'll tell you what grew out of that. I mean, you remember you and I had many more than hour-long conversations just dreaming about this, and I was sending you pictures, both good ones and iPhone ones, and then Sherry and Jeff got in on it and started really sharing the dream, and everybody brought something. And you know what ended up happening was we started really living into it as it was coming together, and we found these perfect windows, transom windows, and in speaking with you, I had decided to do one transom window in the hot room, and two in the relaxing room.
Yeah, symmetrically balancing the hot room door, right?
Yeah, and we were going to put transom lights on either side of the door that we built, and candle windows, and you know, glass in the doors. And as it all came together, we ended up not doing the window in the hot room because we were getting plenty of view from the hot room through the candle windows and through the door. And we ended up strapping the side lights. We put in a pretty big outside door because I really wanted to be able to open it up and have it function like a front porch in the summer.
Yes.
And be able to move enough air through. But you know, some of those things, and I'm a real estate developer for a living. I've built a lot of buildings and probably read plans as well as most people do. And some of that you just can't really experience until you are standing there. And Jeff made some executive decisions that turned out to be just brilliant, and Sherry, you know, helped us to really imagine, you know, what it was going to be like to gather a group there.
Yeah.
And
did you read my post about field verification, or we just have another thing in common about?
You know, I've spent so much time on the site. I don't specifically remember it, but it's been.
Hey, I'm not offended. Don't worry about it. But to your point about we call it field verification, and it's a great story. I've said it a few times, but I was the lead builder on the 612 mobile sauna, and an architect was brought in, and we were sitting at my dining room table with Michael, the architect, and JP, the brain trust and founder of the 612 Sauna Society. And the nice thing about getting three people into a project is that there's never a tie.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so there was this moment where we were talking about. I think actually, as I think about it, I think it was the candle window itself, and I was so pleased to hear Michael, the architect, say, well, we'll do some field verification on that. And I just jumped all over that term because you said it very well. I mean, this is the beauty of phase builds, okay? You get your hot room done and just feel the space.
Well, and the truth of all of this is that the sensuous experience invites the imagination, and as Sherry and I and Jeff and his wife were using it all through the build, we kept noticing things. And one of the things that we noticed, you had wisely suggested that we put rheostats on all the lights and use all LEDs. And thinking that, we would very much prefer soft light. It'd be nice to have bright light for cleaning and stuff when we're not really using it. But what we've ended up with, Sherry, ended up putting candles in every window.
Yeah.
And
actual real candles.
Yeah. And I found these beautiful oil lamps at Garrett Wade, my favorite tool store in New York. And we put those in the candle windows. And I'll tell you, Glenn, the illuminating that warm wood space with candlelight creates an atmosphere that is so calming and so romantic that I can't believe it.
Yeah, so well said. I'm afraid to even unpack that. Want to hit it?
Yeah.
I'm afraid to even unpack that statement because it's so eloquently perfect. But what I have to do is kind of get weird and think, hey, maybe that is something very primal to our ancestry.
There is no question about it. And that people joke about wood versus infrared.
I'm going to dunk some water in my head. You want to stand and talk?
Yeah, I'm going to dip some more water while we're...
Dip in there. And we were talking about the primal of the flame.
The warmth of wood, the flame, the whole thing is... just like standing here in this icy night with these 50-mile-an-hour gusts.
Oh, yeah, this is a tough one, man. The wind chill is hitting us. Now, I filled up that 5-gallon water bucket, 15, 20 minutes ago?
Yeah.
And there's a healthy skim of ice on the top. But I dumped that over my head, and, and then I'm feeling that wind, and now I'm feeling ice in my hair.
Yeah.
But the endorphins are rushing,
That's...
and you're reaching for the doorknob to get back into the changing room. And off we go.
But I think that was one of my favorite surprises, and then we've kibitzed between the three of us about all of the fixtures and finishes, and we found these beautifully hand wrought iron hooks, that we hung on the logs.
Can I interject on that one, John? What is it about iron, like bringing in that medium into a sauna that's so beautiful? Do you know?
Every one of us looked at it and just knew it was right. There wasn't much analysis, Glenn.
Okay, but maybe there's something there. I mean, like that black iron, and that's part of the Kuma stove too. It's just
primal.
Primal. Rocks, iron, wood, heat, fire.
Yeah, and then
water.
Jeff brought some cedar. He had some cedar poles.
You want a beer? Or are you okay?
I'll have this water and then I'll be ready for one.
Okay, I got Wimpy S. Miller here, and I got some premium in the garage or in
the
house.
That's good.
Yeah, sauna beer. Lighter the better.
Yeah. Just got to stay hydrated.
So those of you listening, still listening. We get a lot of listeners on Sauna Talk, and it's just so wonderful to build this tribe. Literally build. These are a tribe of folks that are building their own sauna, wanting to build their own sauna, wanting to take sauna to a deeper level than maybe an infrared light bulb closet or a health club experience. Are now advancing. I mean, these are all stepping stones and gateway drugs toward what you and I many of us call the authentic sauna. And it's just such a great privilege. It really is to have started Sauna Times with this intention to bring this group of people that want to share the wonderfulness of the authentic. And we do it through Build, you and I. We've collaborated together. We got this Build thing going on. But those of you listening that are thinking about building a sauna, I just wanted to frame up this conversation with John. And here's a guy who did it. Like, here's a guy who had it in his heart and soul for 20 years, but pulled the trigger. And given that, John, what would you like to say to people that are maybe driving right now in their car, listening to this podcast, have an inkling about sauna, maybe been to Europe or maybe through their health club and want to take it to a deeper level? Can you offer some direction or paths or roads of encouragement?
Glenn, I've had an opportunity to do a lot of building in my lifetime. It's been my profession, and building community is really my personal mission. And I've never enjoyed a building project as much as I have this sauna, and it has really changed our experience of the cabin. And in fact, it inspired me. The next project, I just never looked at these buildings this way, but I'm now taking the next door building and turning that into a bunkhouse.
Yeah.
So that the cabin is becoming a little bit of a camp, and it's a place where people are gathering, and it's we've had hundreds of wonderful evenings on the front porch, and this just adds so much to that whole thing.
You touched on something that's significant. A lot of so another stepping stone when you talk to some people. Oh yeah, I have a sauna. Yeah. And maybe it's in their basement or underneath the stairway or something like that. The nice thing about this authentic sauna experience is that it's a verb and a noun, meaning you go sauna and you go to the sauna.
Right.
And the noun part is it's a destination place. And your 10 by 20 former woodshed garage has become a place of relaxation and destination that's separate from the main house. Mm-hmm. And so those thinking about building a sauna, I want to offer this point of liberation in that, this separate structure, you're not going to get in trouble if there's sawdust or tools laying around,
right.
Or you gave, you started and you left it alone for a few weeks.
Or if the card game goes a little long in the evening.
Yeah. The build is an organic build, right?
Right.
It's not a rush job.
Right.
It's not like you got to redo your kitchen.
Right.
Right?
Yeah. Well, and honestly, we were enjoying it the whole time, and I think it'll take us a year to get all of the details right, and hopefully we'll as we gather memories, we'll gather artifacts along the way.
Right on. So any other words of encouragement for anyone thinking about building a sauna?
It helps a lot to have somebody to collaborate with, and there are a million decisions, and you've asked me a couple of times if there's anything I would do differently, and there's not much.
Yeah.
A few tiny things, but having somebody to do that with, really was a big part of the whole experience.
Yeah, no question, and it's more fun to share that.
But it's also, frankly, one of the simpler building projects, and if a guy, a guy has some carpentry skill, there's a lot of opportunity for flourishes, and that's one of the
Yeah,
places
yeah.
where Jeff really added a lot to my place. The way that he crafted the door handles, and the way that he trimmed the windows, and the
Yeah.
cove molding where we
Yeah.
brought the cedar in the hot room
Yes.
to the logs.
The phase build allows for that because you get a functioning sauna, right? Even if it's blankets to a common room and all that, and then you can exhale. You
Yeah.
can enjoy it, and then you can conceptualize like, what do I want to do next?
Yeah.
And then what I found it's really great is when you have a functional hot room, and that is your tools can still be laying around. And as a matter of fact, I remember hanging my towel on the DeWalt many a time.
Well, if you
know?
look at my pictures that you posted, actually, you can see the progression of relaxing with the tools and materials.
Yeah.
And the hot room was the first thing finished. We really concentrated on that. My favorite things, I think I really love the way the light comes in and the way that we're able to illuminate it with the candles. And you kind of half inspired me on this idea of actually using sauna furniture in the relaxing room. But you come out and you're sweaty and wet, and it can be a wet place, and it turned out to be just perfect.
Yeah. Continue the vibe, like.
I know you're going to Finland soon.
Yes.
When I was over there visiting a zipper factory once, we were entertained in a big sauna, and we're served dinner in the relaxing area.
Very cool.
And
was there macara sausages by chance?
I don't remember.
They're nuts for that. Yeah.
there may have been.
But it makes sense, like the saltiness and the protein after a sauna when you're kind of feeling a little depleted.
Yeah.
It's a nice after sauna.
Our favorite thing is to have chicken soup or
Yes.
chili on the stove.
Could not agree more.
We come in and we'll have a glass of wine and some warm soup and bread, and that's my idea of a perfect evening.
Have you been to the Chicago Sweat Lodge in Chicago?
No.
Yeah, Bill Trotter was a guest on Sauna Talk, the general manager down there, and they have a great restaurant and a lot of Russian-based meals, and they have the Polish pierogies and that. But man, when I go down there, I always get the chicken soup after sauna. It is tremendously. There's something about that. That's good.
Well, my favorite sauna is the Mühlische Volksbad in Munich, and we have the same experience there. I don't know if you've ever had an opportunity to visit, but
I have not. No.
they've got everything from authentic sauna to, and it's built around a round room with a pool in the middle, and there are cold pools and hot pools, and it really is a public bath. And
How big is the whole structure, would you guess?
Goodness. Big. I mean, 40, 50,000 square feet. The bath area is probably 10,000 square feet.
Much like water parks here down like in
Well, much more beautiful. I mean,
Yeah.
Beautiful stone. It looks like a Roman bath, and but in a way, it's not overly ostentatious.
Sure.
And we would go there and make an afternoon of it, and then they have a beautiful cafe, where you can sit outside and eat soup. Which
Do you think we'll have one of these in United States at some point?
Well, I was at a spa in Phoenix over the weekend where it was cold and rainy, and I might not have otherwise ventured in, but there was a miniature version of it there.
Yeah. How was the sauna there?
It was authentic.
Yeah.
It was a little dry, and they didn't know about loyalty.
Yeah.
So
did you bring in your own special quote unquote water bottle?
Well, happily they had a wonderful steam bath there too.
Yeah.
And I enjoyed that, just like the wet bath in Ely.
Right on.
So the thing I have to tell you, be ready to step in? For the
let's
final
keep
round?
doing it. Yep, we got one more round in us. You guys are doing great staying with us here on Sauna Talk. you were going to go and what was your point there, John?
Well, I wanted to share with you a story that I've been taking a group of girls up to the Boundary Waters for a long time. I have only one child, and happily she's a lover of adventure and the outdoors, and we had a wonderful experience. We had an Italian exchange student, Ariana, living with us, and I took her up to go dog sledding in February. And she had never experienced anything like Ely in February, and so our first stop was the public sauna, and there it's segregated. The men and women are in different rooms, and I was asking the girls if they needed any coaching, needed to know what to do, and of course at age 18 they were quite confident they didn't need any advice I had. And they wandered in, wearing their bathing suits, and found a room full of, 50 to 80-year-old miners' wives and loggers' wives, and just great, hardy Boundary Waters Ely women, and these women turned them right around, sent them out to get rid of their bathing suits, brought them back in, and very lovingly, introduced them to sauna culture. And the two had just a peak experience. They were so giddy when they came out. They were, Dad, I got to tell you about this. It's like when they discovered the Beatles.
Yeah. So your daughter got really hip to sauna through Ely first.
She did. She did, and
It's
then
hot water in there, so careful.
she did, and then she left in September. She went over and spent a good chunk of August with Ariana's family in Italy, and then she. Oh man, that feels good. I just want to soak
That was a
in.
pro blast. See, that's just what I'm talking about, John. You throw the amount of water on for your sauna.
That's
Quite a blast.
That's a pretty. That's a pretty good reason to not overbuild the size of your sauna. This is. I really like the way that it doesn't take as much to bring it up here.
Yeah, it's small Kuma, and it's only 6'4" by 6'3". This hot room. I built this in 2003, and I just kind of shoehorned it into the garage here. I'd probably make it a little bigger, next, if I had the empty canvas. I'd put in a transom window. But, you got to understand, and life in 2003 with sauna was different than it is today. I was very stealth. I didn't want to have any any windows, any,
Didn't want to have the
acknowledgement.
insurance guy.
Yeah, or anything, But now sauna's become more accepted, and yeah. So I got a couple of more.
But
Go
just
ahead.
to finish
Yeah,
up, so my daughter ended up in September moving to Munich, and she spent. She was there until Christmas studying German, and the first thing she did was visit the Mutische Volksbad, and really just fell in love with the whole German experience. And so, Sherry and I had visited her. We'd met her there when she was coming from Italy and helped her get settled, and we went off and hiked in the Swiss Alps and came back.
Wow.
And had a wonderful, wonderful visit with her, and I got to get reacquainted with my German experience, and came home, and I get these. Every other day I'd get what's it called? A FaceTime message from my daughter Eva, and she'd be telling me about how great the German saunas are, and said, "Geez, Dad, I wish I could share all this with you." And so, on the just spur of the moment, went back for the first week of December and spent a week there with her, and that was really fun. And when one of the most fun things for me was when Eva came home for the holidays, and couldn't wait to get to the cabin to try out the sauna.
How'd it go?
Oh my God, she's just in love with it.
Yeah.
She thinks it's great.
Sounds wonderful. So, your daughter Eva first got
exposed to the sauna in Ely,
Yep.
and just great experiences every other day in Germany.
Well, and yeah, I think it really points out what you were talking about earlier. You know, when I was talking to these girls about, you know, do you want a little coaching? Do you want to understand a little bit about sauna culture? No, Dad, we got this. You know, we've been doing sauna forever. And, you know, their experience had been the Electric Health Club sauna at the YMCA.
Yeah.
And, you know, they're no different than anybody else, you know, being introduced into a little slower, little more sensual experience, just absolutely lit them up. And God bless these wonderful older women up in Ely who, you know, just loved bringing them into the culture. And I think
And sharing that.
you know, we've been really blessed, and we've traveled to a lot of Nordic places. And one of the things I love about sauna is that it is of these places. You know, this is really and it's not just Northern European. It's just Northern.
Yeah. We talked off mic a little bit about the mobile sauna, and if you could have a mobile sauna and bring it anywhere you've been, anywhere you'd like to go, where would you like to bring a mobile sauna and take a sauna?
Well, I mentioned to you that you know, the work I do and really my personal mission in life is building community, and both literally physically building communities, but more than that, bringing people together in generative ways. And I would bring that. I hope you and I are going to do that. I would bring it wherever people are gathering. Anywhere.
Doesn't a place come to mind that would be kind of fun for you personally?
You know, on a day like today, you know, anywhere that people are hunkered down from the weather.
Yeah.
I've mentioned to you, I have a group of men that I spent a long weekend ice fishing with up on Lake Mille Lacs. You know, that's probably the first place that comes to my mind.
And you know what? I don't think it's been done. I've had this conversation a few times. I'm collaborating with Eric, who's building these custom mobile saunas using an ice fish house chassis. Mm-hmm. This is a guy who spent the last 25 years deeply immersed in the ice fishing culture. Mm-hmm. I have never heard nor seen of any, you know, those little ice fishing, they're like little, you talk about community, they're the little community out there on the ice. Yeah, you're talking about a dozen, 15 little ice houses out there. I've never once heard or seen a mobile sauna out on the ice.
But, you know, I've seen over and over the way that, you know, this just brings people into conversation and into a wonderful shared experience. Yeah. And so when I say any place people are gathering, you know, the places that come to mind are places that are rainy and cold and snowy but I would, you know, I can think of 1,000 places I'd like to bring in.
How about this one? If you could have a sauna with anybody, dead or alive, past, present, who's the first person that comes to mind that you'd like to share a sauna session with on the bench?
Oh, my father, for sure. I lost him when I was very young, and you know, if I could have a couple of hours to really get into someone's heart, it would be my dad.
Well said. I hear you. I enough said, and I appreciate that answer so much. Sauna gives us that time together, one-on-one, and I couldn't agree more. That's a beautiful answer. Knowing sauna like you know, John, and as we know it, what do you think is most misunderstood about sauna to those that maybe aren't as deep into it as you or I?
You know, it's not just about getting warmed up and sweating, obviously. I mean, it's, you know, that's part of the mechanism, but the, you know, the experience of that weekly bath of, you know, coming in and really letting down and relaxing. And I've always loved the, I think it's Finnish, I don't know, it's Northern European, I'm sure, but when there's a lot of conversation about what you do in a sauna, and I think it's the Finns who say that anything that's appropriate in church is what you do in sauna. And I just think that there's our lives are so damn busy, and I just last week celebrated my 60th birthday, and I'm still working just as hard as I ever have. Still undertaking new adventures. I'm leaving for Japan in a couple of days to visit my daughter, who's studying over in Asia. She's actually in China, and I just relish the opportunity to have this really ancient, really primal experience that I bet hasn't changed a darn bit since it started. And there's we can talk about the science, just like we talk about the science of meditation and of breathing. But as you know, Glenn, there's an experience that really transcends all of that.
When you wake up in the day, say you're waking up in Minneapolis and you're going up to Minung, to your cabin, and you know it's a sauna day. And when you think about that day, when you think about all the aspects of a sauna session, from when you wake up, the anticipation to getting there, we talked about lighting the stove, round one, round two, the cool down, that great cool down space you have, finishing maybe with the chili or the chicken soup. As you analyze that whole spectrum of experience, if you had to pick one, what moment stands out as the pinnacle, that ultimate spot of the ultimate moment of a sauna session?
It's for me. It's most often been when I've been on the bench with Sherry or my daughter or a close friend, and just have realized for a minute how present I am. And as you were describing that, I kept wanting to interrupt you and say all of it. And frankly, I enjoy the cutting and the splitting of the wood. A lot of my pals, would have it dropped off. But one of the more fun projects that we did was building a new woodshed and filling it up. And now our spring wood cutting season has a whole other meaning for us, and it's just really a nice thing that we do. It just adds to our lives in many ways.
So maybe that moment, that one pinnacle moment, or the best of the best, is on the bench with a family member or someone you love, or a friend. Just that moment on the bench.
Yeah, and I think too. We talk about our saunas, our stoves, the number of rounds. How to do the loyally, how to do the cold. I can never remember the Finnish.
Avanto.
Avanto. There's an awful lot of energy that goes into that, and I think it was Julie Rice, who I know from your writings. I don't know her personally, but I think she said that she thought sauna saved her marriage, and she said there's just something about sitting for a couple of hours, undressed or nearly undressed with someone that really takes you to a level of connection that's hard to replicate, and that really resonates with me. And I think the last thing I'll say about that is that relaxing room is really critical to that, because when you look at the entire experience and how much time we spend there versus here, that's a big part of it. And I know that you were kind enough to have breakfast with my neighbor Chris, who's got a kick-ass sauna going in, and didn't really know about the resting rooms and the rhythm of the whole thing, and was captivated by it when he saw it. I think that may be the least understood part of the whole thing. That you can light a lamp and be heated that way, but that's not what you and I are talking about. That's not what this evening has been.
Yeah, well said. Any final words to listeners of Sauna Talk and and Sauna Times?
No, just thank you for all the encouragement that you gave me, and for collecting all of this wisdom and inspiring all of us who are regaining it and taking this out of our bucket list and putting it into our lives. And I would invite anybody who's going to be in the neighborhood to check in with me and come by and experience this.
Wonderful. That's a very warm and generous offer. And careful about that one. Careful with that. I think we're going to have a box on Airbnb. I'm soliciting to the Airbnb corporate entities to have a box for authentic sauna that one can check if they're listing their properties on Airbnb. So we'll see, John.
All right. Thank you very much.